Imagine a man so dominant, the rules of basketball bent around him. A player so powerful, so unstoppable, it felt like someone had hacked reality and installed a cheat code in human form. That wasn't fiction. That was Shaquille O'Neal in the year 2000. Basketball's living, breathing God mode. The story of Shaquille O'Neal in the year 2000 doesn't begin in 2000. It begins much earlier, on the cracked concrete courts of Newark, New Jersey, where a young Shaq first learned that his body didn't fit inside the normal parameters of the human race. By the time he was a teenager, Shaq wasn't just tall, he was a colossus. At 6'6" in middle school, his peers looked like children next to him. Coaches whispered, opponents sighed, and kids on the block told stories about the giant who could dunk without even trying. He didn't grow into basketball. Basketball grew into him. When he arrived at LSU, Shaq was already an event. He wasn't just a college athlete. He was the equivalent of a video game character someone had designed with every stat slider maxed out. Height, max. Strength, max. Power, max. And here's the thing, unlike many oversized centers before him, Shaq wasn't clumsy. He wasn't awkward. He could move. This was the first sign that we weren't looking at a normal prospect. Fast forward to the NBA draft 1992, the Orlando Magic called his name, and the league braced itself. Shaq entered the NBA like a glitch that broke the game. In his rookie season, he was tearing down backboards. Not metaphorically, literally. His dunk shattered rims, bent supports, and forced arenas to install stronger steel. The NBA actually had to reinforce his equipment just to contain him. But here's the thing, Shaq wasn't even close to his peak. He was still raw, still young, still figuring out how to leverage his impossible combination of size, speed, and force. The cheat code was installed, it just hadn't been fully activated. Through the mid-90s, Shaq was a terror in Orlando, but as dominant as he was, the full dynasty never materialized. The Magic made the finals in 1995, but were dismantled by Hakeem Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets. Shaq was good, but he wasn't yet invincible. That changed in Los Angeles. When Shaq signed with the Lakers in 1996, the NBA quietly shifted on its axis. He had already been a superstar, but the Lakers weren't signing him for highlights. They were signing him for history, and they were willing to build an empire around him. Enter Kobe Bryant, a teenager barely out of high school, with ambition so fiery it threatened to consume everything around him. Together, Shaq and Kobe represented something terrifying, a perfect storm of dominance and hunger. But like all storms, they needed time to build. The late 90s were turbulent. Injuries, early playoff exits. Shaq was still larger than life, but critics pointed out his free throw woes, his conditioning, his lack of championships. He was great, but was he an all-time great? Then came the year 2000. This was the year the cheat code fully activated. Shaquille O'Neal entered the 1999-2000 NBA season like a man possessed. He dropped weight, got in shape, and committed himself to a level of dominance the league had never witnessed. Night after night, he bullied 7-footers like they were middle schoolers. He dunked over entire front lines. He posted stat lines that looked like typos. That season, Shaq averaged 29.7 points, 13.6 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 57% on shooting. He won the MVP in a landslide, nearly unanimous, something that almost never happens. And the numbers only told half the story. Watching Shaq in 2000s was like watching a creature from a different species. He didn't just score, he collapsed defenses. Coaches had to rewrite their entire playbook just to deal with him. Guards could barely penetrate because Shaq's gravity sucked in every defender. Shooters thrived because Shaq's presence demanded constant doubles and triple teams. It wasn't just dominance, it was distortion. The game of basketball itself bent around him. And then came the playoffs. If the regular season was a cheat code, the postseason was God mode. The 2000 NBA Finals, Los Angeles Lakers versus the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers had Reggie Miller, the deadliest shooter of his generation. They had Jalen Rose, a versatile scorer. They had veterans, depth, confidence. On paper, they were balanced, skilled, and dangerous. But the Pacers didn't have an answer for Shaquille O'Neal. Game 1 set the tone. Shaq scored 43 points, grabbed 19 rebounds. He wasn't just scoring, he was humiliating defenders. Rick Smits, Indiana's 7'4" center, looked helpless. Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, big tough defenders were tossed aside like props in a wrestling ring. Every time Shaq caught the ball near the rim, it felt like an automatic 2 points. Commentators ran out of adjectives, fans ran out of breath, opponents ran out of hope. Game 2, Shaq dropped 40 and 24. Again, the Pacers were forced to send double and triple teams, and again, it didn't matter. He bulldozed through them anyway. At one point, Larry Bird, then the Pacers coach, admitted privately that there was no game plan left. You couldn't scheme against Shaq in 2000, you just survived him. By Game 6, Shaq had averaged 38 points and 16.7 rebounds for the series. That wasn't just finals MVP dominance, that was statistical insanity. To this day, no player has matched that level of production in a championship round. But here's the thing that made Shaq feel like a cheat code. It wasn't just the numbers, it was the aura. Players who had spent their careers confident in their toughness looked defeated before the game even tipped. Guards refused to drive the lane. Centers fouled early and often just to avoid being dunked through the rim. Shaq's presence was psychological warfare. It was a video game matchup in real life. Think about it. In NBA 2K, when you create a player and max out every physical attribute, you get a ridiculous monster who bulldozes through defenders and scores at will. That's exactly what Shaq was in 2000. Only this wasn't a video game, this was real life. And the most terrifying part? He made other great players look ordinary. Reggie Miller, clutch shooter, Hall of Famer, beloved icon, was reduced to a side story. Rick Smits, a skilled big man, looked like a scarecrow. Jalen Rose put up numbers, but every bucket felt meaningless in the face of Shaq's inevitability. Shaq wasn't just winning games, he was redefining dominance. When the Lakers won the title, Shaq was crowned Finals MVP, but this wasn't just a trophy, this was a confirmation. In 2000, Shaq wasn't playing the same game as everyone else, he was in a different dimension. It's one thing to win, it's another thing to win while making the entire sport feel broken. That's what Shaq did. When we look back at Shaquille O'Neal in 2000, the temptation is to focus on the numbers. The 38 and 16 in the finals, the near unanimous MVP, the sheer statistical absurdity. But numbers don't capture the feeling. The feeling of watching a man who seemed too big, too strong, too fast for the rules of the game. The feeling of inevitability, knowing that no matter what scheme the opposing coach drew up, Shaq was going to bend it until it snapped. That's what separates great from mythic. Because here's the truth. Basketball has seen incredible players. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, each had their moments of supremacy, but 2000 Shaq occupies a different category. Wilt was a statistical freak, but he played in an era without the same level of athletic competition. Kareem was unstoppable with his skyhook, but he wasn't physically annihilating people. Jordan was the greatest closer, but he relied on finesse, willpower, and precision. Shaq in 2000 was the only player who made the sport look like it wasn't designed to contain him. That's why cheat code is the only proper metaphor. He wasn't breaking records, he was breaking reality. Teammates knew it, opponents admitted it, even legends bowed to it. Tim Duncan, a stoic giant in his own right, once said the hardest part about guarding Shaq was that you couldn't even practice for it. No scout team could simulate what it felt like to be crushed by 325 pounds of unstoppable momentum. And here's the kicker, 2000 wasn't an isolated year, it was the beginning of a dynasty. The Lakers, behind Shaq and Kobe, won 3 straight championships. And though Kobe's brilliance proved brighter each passing year, it was Shaq's singular dominance in 2000 that lit that fuse. But like all cheat codes, it couldn't last forever. Shaq's conditioning issues returned, injuries piled up, his feud with Kobe simmered, then exploded. Eventually, the dynasty fractured, the cheat code was patched. Yet for that one shining season, for that one immortal finals run, Shaquille O'Neal achieved something no other player has. He transcended the limits of basketball itself. In 2000, Shaq wasn't just dominant, he was inevitable. He was terrifying. He was unstoppable. He was, quite literally, unfair. If cheat code was a person, it wore size 22 sneakers, and it dunked on your entire franchise.